In its 2,500-year history, not one drop of blood has been shed trying to convert someone to Buddhism. That's because there is precious little to convert to, especially when compared to other forms of religion. In fact, Buddhism lacks most of the components of other religious organizations. In certain ways, the teachings of Buddha can hardly be called a religion at all, at least in the conventional sense, as you will see. So I recommend that you relax and enjoy this video for purely educational purposes, free of any worries of recruitment. Eons ago, prehistoric humans transitioned from caves to communal life. The agrarian age was born. People congregated in villages and cities sprung up. There would be a backlash, at least on a nominal scale. Certain individuals would choose a lifestyle quite apart from conventional society. To this day, wandering sadhus can be seen in India carrying on this tradition of breaking the bonds of material attachment. About 2,500 years ago, in the area now connecting India with Nepal, there was a prince of the Shakya clan. He was born into indescribable wealth and power, with access to all things pleasurable. One day he ventured outside the expansive walls of his father's kingdom. When the prince saw famine and disease for the first time, he was terribly perplexed. He entered a period of deep self-examination. This young prince, Gautama by family name, decided to initiate a radical restructuring of his lifestyle, to say the least. Much to his family's utter dismay, Gautama put on the ochre robe of a wandering Hindu monk. He left his golden palace and headed for the forest. Gautama took up a begging bowl and a walking staff and set out to study how the world works. Quite an undertaking. As was common practice of that period, he practically starved himself to death in an attempt to purge himself of all vanities. He wandered through the forest with a small group of like-minded sadhus for the better part of a decade before heading into complete seclusion. In these hills near Bodh Gaya, the rail-thin Gautama battled demons, much like Jesus would later do during his 40 days of fasting and critical self-reflection. At the end of his suffering, Gautama realized that mortification of the flesh did not lead to spiritual advancement. Gautama came out of the hills determined to restore his own vitality and his ability to concentrate. He walked to Bodh Gaya, whereupon he experienced his awakening while seated underneath the famous Bodhi tree. During his meditation, issues about life, death, and the cause of suffering became crystal clear to him. Gautama's newly acquired knowledge differed in certain critically important areas from that of the dominant religion of Hinduism. Shakyamuni, sage of the Shakya clan, as he was now called, had to make another monumental decision. Should Gautama remain silent about his unique understandings? Shakyamuni walked from Bodh Gaya, the scene of his enlightenment, to Sarnath, a village near Varanasi. There he met up with his former sadhu travel mates. They were appalled by his robust condition, and they accused him of being a traitor to the cause. At first he hesitated, but he finally decided to tell them about his findings. The situation must have been intense. Shakyamuni knew that his knowledge would be met with resistance. As always, money, power, and influence were cherished goals in mainstream society. Instead, he taught humility, self-sacrifice, and spiritual growth over the accumulation of objects of transitory, fleeting value. Following his awakening, Shakyamuni was called Tathagata, which means thus here, thus gone. This translation from Sanskrit to English, by the way, is not universally accepted. Regardless, Tathagata is a rather simple title for such an individual. But then again, this humble title reflects his aversion to any connection with claims of Buddha being a supreme being or having been inspired by such an entity. I hope that you will join me in part 2.